couple years ago, I taught you 3 Hebrew words, and we need to start using them.
Hazak,
Yep, batak,
Batak, Hazak, and
amatz.
okay.
Batak, be bold, confident. It means trust. But it also means bold. You cannot be bold in him if you do not trust him. The other word is confident. You cannot be bold if you are not confident. You cannot be confident if you do not trust. It means all 3 of those words. That was Stephen. Okay? Stephen was batak. Chazak means to be courageous. It also means to be loud. Does that mean to be obnoxious? Well, unless you're obnoxiously courageous.
It depends on who you're being loud to. Their opinion.
To the enemy, you're going to be obnoxious.
Yeah.
But in God's eyes, we need to be courageous. Remember Revelation? Who's the first person that's not going to enter into God's kingdom? Hey. Who's on the list first that won't enter God's kingdom?
God?
No, God's in his kingdom. The cowardly, yes. What is the opposite of courage? Cowardly. You can see, if you're going to be disobedient, you're going to be cowardly because you want what makes you feel good. And to be courageous means in spite of fear, you step up anyway and you do it anyway. See, being courageous, are you guys listening? No talking? Yeah, I know. I can hear it. All right. No talking. Wise. Okay. Pay attention with your ears and your heart, right? Okay. To be courageous doesn't mean there's an absence of fear. Please get that inside of you. To be courageous doesn't mean you're fearless, yes, but that doesn't mean there's not a tinge of uncertainty. That's like, oh man, I really don't want to do this. But you stand up anyway. And you go forward anyway, in spite of it. Okay? That's courage. That's courage. Right? I think in order to be courageous, there's probably got to be a tinge of fear so that your courage is grounded in the right place. Because if you're so courageous in yourself, that's cocky. I think that's what I liked about talking to the doctor. He wasn't cocky, he was confident. Okay?
His abilities.
Yes. Okay, so there's a difference. There's a difference. So batak, be bold, confident, trust. Hazak, be loud and strong. Okay? And then the last one, amatz, be courageous. Amatz. Okay? Courage. Be courageous. And they all kind of go together, don't they? Mm-hmm. Yep. Can't be courageous without the trust and the confidence. Okay? And the boldness. Because in order to be courageous in spite of your fear, you boldly step out, right? You boldly move forward in spite of. Okay. Mark chapter 4. I'm trying my best to give us the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, in as chronological of an order as I possibly can. I'm going to make mistakes because I'm human and I wasn't there. Okay? But pretty much we're going to follow a chronological. Some things might be, before or after something with the 4 Gospels. For example, one of the things that we read today is only found in one book. Okay? Not the 4. Does that mean, oh, I shouldn't pay attention to it because there's supposed to be two witnesses? No, because there were witnesses. These were written off of witness accounts, so it stands. Some of the details, remember when we read, some of them are in all four Gospels, and the details are different. Does that mean somebody's wrong? No.
Different point of view.
Different point of view, different perspective. They saw different things. You and I, if we're, maybe I'm 3 blocks over and you're over here and we both see something in the sky, but we see it differently. I don't know, maybe there's something filtering my view, or maybe we see an accident, but I'm over here and you're over there. Your perspective and what you see, you're going to see things I can't see. I'm going to see things you can't see. Or I might record it a little bit differently. Like, remember the one who said, the centurion went and talked to Jesus. No, he sent somebody. It still fits the time period and authority. So it still fits. Okay? Huh?
It's still accurate.
It's still accurate, yeah. Mark 4. We're going to start at verse 33. With many parables like these, remember last week we talked about a few of the parables, not all of them. And most of the parables we talked about last week were about what?
Planting.
Yeah, yeah, that was a good one. The soil and the planting, that was a really good one. That was about individuals. But the other, I think there were 3 parables that we read that were about the kingdom of God. And the one that stood out to me was the yeast, because it's the only time, remember? And it was, and of course we did it during the unleavened bread, when you couldn't have yeast, right? When yeast is a no-no, and here I am talking about how the kingdom of God is like when a woman adds yeast to her dough, right? And the whole bread, the whole thing expands. So in that case, we want to be like yeast in that it permeates. It expands. It permeates everything, though. No part of that dough is untouched. So let everything we do be like that. Okay? So anyway, so after the parables, this is where we are. So with many parables like these, he spoke the message to them to the extent that they were capable of hearing it. Did everybody hear the same? No. Did everybody understand the same? No. Some got no deeper than right here. Is this where I want you to be? No. Don't play up here. Right? Children. Do I want... You're children, so everybody expects you to be right here. I don't, do I? No. Can you have wisdom? Yes, you can. Can you have understanding and discernment? Yeah. Where do I want you to be? Rooted, right? Go deep. Go to the root of the matter, the heart of the matter, okay? Go deep. Don't be shallow, right? He did not say a thing to them without using a parable. And when he was alone with his own Talmudim, he explained everything to them. And remember last week, I brought out the Isaiah, right? About how he was going to speak in parables and teach them in parables. Right. That day when evening had come, boy, he doesn't just say, an hour or two. He's like at it, like, it's full time. That day when evening had come, Yeshua said to them, let's cross over to the other side of the lake. I want to show you a picture. Is this the Sea of Galilee? Yes. Okay. See where Tiberias is? That's on the west side of the Sea of Galilee. Okay? Just above it is Magdala. It's not that far. You can walk there in half an hour. I mean, it's really not that far. Okay? Just above it is Gennesaret. Above that is Capernaum. Okay? Beautiful. To the right, so in the northeast corner is Bethesda. You can't see on this map, but Bethesda has this huge open space. Okay? Like on your flat space next to the lake.
Like that.
Most of it is hills, right? You've got hills everywhere, but you have flat spaces between some of the hills. There's some places where there's a lot of hills with a little bit of flat space, and then there's a lot of flat spaces, but always hills. It's completely surrounded by hills, okay? Then you get over to Gesera and Hippos, all right? When it says the other side of the lake, remember he's over at the Capernaum area, okay? typically, what we were reading last week, he was up there at the Capernaum area, up in the northwest of the Sea of Galilee. So to go across, I don't believe it was Bethesda. I believe it was between Gergesha and Hippos. Okay, could have been further. Could have been all the way down there at the mouth of the Jordan River, for all we know. He said, let's cross to the other side. He meant the other side, okay? He didn't mean, let's just go over town over. You could have walked there. But sometimes he did get in a boat just to go to another town, just to get there ahead of them and to have some quiet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the eastern side has higher, steeper slopes than the west, okay? So this is like a satellite. You can see all the green around the lake. Those are flat areas. Okay, so all the way around, there's all kinds of very large areas where he could have spoken to multitudes of people. Okay, and then they can go up into the hills and they can go off. The 10 towns that we're going to talk about later is to the right or the east of the Jordan River. Okay, all right. Just want you to get an idea of where you're at. So leaving the crowd behind, they took him just as he was in the boat. And there were other boats with him. You thought maybe there was just one boat. A furious windstorm arose, and waves broke over the boat, so that it was close to being swamped. That's the Sea of Galilee. That's not even a violent storm. Okay? That is not the storm we're talking about here. This storm that we're talking about is much worse than this. Okay? We're talking a violent storm.
Are those real people?
Those are real people on the Sea of Galilee. Okay, it might have been a bigger boat. I'm sure it was probably a bigger boat. The fishing boats were a little bit bigger and they had a lot more people on them, so I'm sure it was a little bit bigger.
The disciples. 12 people.
Well, but there were more. So when Yeshua traveled, it wasn't just 12.
It was multiple.
There were women and there were other people who were, like, we know that he called 70 that weren't part of the 12. Okay, so there's a lot of people. It says boats. There were crowds that followed him, but then there was a core group.
Yeah.
So, and then there were others who maybe periodically would travel because, they still have to eat, they still have to work. But there is a group of people that constantly follow him. Okay? And so when it says that he explained to like just the disciples of parables, no, he explained to the core group. Okay? That's what we read last week. He explained to them those on more of the inner circle, not the 5,000, but maybe the 100 and something. Okay? All right. So leaving the crowd behind, they took him as he was in the boat, and there were other boats with him, and a furious windstorm arose, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was close to being swamped. But he was in the stern on a cushion asleep. What? That's confidence, isn't it? He's the maker of the water. You think the water's going to take his life before his time? Heck no. He's not worried. He's not worried. Storm can't take him out. They woke him up and they said, Rabbi, doesn't it matter to you that we're about to be killed? Who said you're about to be killed? Right? He awoke and he rebuked the wind, and he said to the waves, quiet, be still. Wow. The wind subsided and there was a dead calm. This is the closest I could get, and that's not a dead calm. Okay, a dead calm, there are no ripples on the water. That is a huge body of water. So much so that if there was no ripples, they're basically dead in the water. That's where you get the term dead in the water. The boat is dead in the water. You're now going to be rowing because the sails aren't going to do you any good. Okay? Dead calm. And it's a huge body of water. Reminds me of two songs. One, I know the master of the wind. I know the maker of the rain. He can calm the storm, make the sun shine again. I know the master of the wind. You got to know that. Because no matter what's going, see, here's this storm that they're thinking is going to take them out, going to wipe them out, take their lives. They're going to sink to the bottom. You know, they're done for. It's a furious storm. And he's as calm as could be. So whenever life has just storms, right? And we have storms all the time. We go through stuff all the time. You should have an inner peace, an inner confidence. I know who I am. If it's my time, he's going to take me. And if it's not, I'm going to walk through this storm. He's going to make a way. He'll either calm it or see me through it. That's how we need to think. And that's how we need to teach these over here. Because what's coming, we got to prepare them. Okay? So the words of the song, I'm not going to sing it, but it says, the words of the song says, he says, peace be still. Lifts his hands, right? Peace be still. Like a child, the winds obey him. But then the second time it sings it, it says, and like a child, my heart obeys. So in the midst of the storm, can you take a breath and be at peace? That's your test. Okay? It doesn't mean the chaos is necessarily going to stop. But if you have inner peace, you can withstand it. Okay? All right. Quiet, be still, and the wind subsided, and there was a dead calm. And he said to them, why are you afraid? Have you no trust even now? What's that trust? Confidence. Do you have no confidence yet in me? I'm right here. You think anything's going to happen to you? I'm right here. Do you understand? He's right here. Nothing can separate you, right? Okay. But they were terrified. Why? Because they could see it, they could hear it, they could feel it, they could probably taste it, right? All of their senses were on high alert because everything around them is chaotic and chaos in a storm. But inside, he says, peace, be still. You can walk like that. One of my favorite Civil War stories. He's on the battlefield, and his soldiers are telling him, he's on a horse, get off the battlefield, gentlemen. I'm paraphrasing, it's not his exact words, but the essence of it was, I should be just as at peace here on this battlefield as I am at home in my bed. That is trusting confidence. That is bold, confident trust. Okay? And with you have that, courage is easier. It becomes a way of life. It should be a character trait. Okay? Why are you afraid? Have you no trust even now? But they were terrified, and they asked each other, who can this be that even the wind and the waves obey him? Hey children, who is it? Who can it be that the winds and the waves obey him?
God.
Yes. Fully God, fully man. Is he the Father? No. Can I explain that to you? No. Is he the Spirit? No, he's full of the Spirit. He has to be. He's walking around in a fleshly body. Be bold. Come on, he was preaching all day. He was talking all day and telling them parables. And it. What did he say when they touch him? Power left me. Same thing happens when he teaches. Power leaves.
Well, I think the disciples, when they were walking with him, sometimes they seen him as a man. See what the guy used to him as a friend would, and they forgot that he was God. Same thing with us. Sometimes we put God in a box. We don't understand how much he can do and how he's going to do it. we forget. We
I don't
forget.
think they always fully understood that he was God.
It was a process, I
Yeah.
think. of
Yeah. This is early in his
coming into
ministry.
it.
This is really, really early. This is probably the first year
He
of
was
his
just a
ministry.
rabbi at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're discovering who is this? Even the wind, the maker of the wind, the maker of the rain, the maker of is the one telling it, hey, stop. Oh, well, you created me. I have to obey like a child. So even the wind and the waves obey him. Who is this? All right. So now after that, and it's dead quiet, we go immediately. I mean, he just goes boom, boom. Remember the day that he went and he walked a whole day after huge lessons, and he walked a whole day just to raise somebody? Everything has a reason. Everything has a purpose. How did he even know about Naim? How did he even know the widows from, I mean, news? There was no TV. There was no internet, telephone, carrier pigeon, might have been, but you know, not. Spirit of God told him where to go, what to do. Okay? All right. Chapter 5, moving right along. Yeshua and his Talmudim, does that mean just the 12? No. Arrived at the other side of the lake in the Gerasenes territory. As soon as he disembarked, I love that. As soon as he got off the boat, a man with an unclean spirit came out of the burial caves to meet him, which is why I think, again, it's on the other side, the ones on the east side with those big cliffs, because there are caves in those hills. And you can, some of them you can see, some of them you can't. There's caves everywhere in Israel, in the mountains. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so an unclean spirit, not cleansed in a ceremonial sense, in a moral sense. According to Levitical law, not cleansed. The same thing as we clean and unclean foods. Does that mean, oh, you're filthy? No, it means ceremonially, right? You can't be, it's not set apart. Okay? For holy use, for religious purpose. Okay? It's an unclean spirit. The man is full, and it says one, right? Unclean spirit. Came out of the burial caves to meet him. He lived in the burial caves, and no one could keep him tied up, not even with a chain. What? It's a man. No, it's a spirit. Wait a minute. No, it's a spirit in a man. Oh, that's a combination. He had often been chained hand and foot, but he would snap the chains and break the irons off his feet, and no one was strong enough to control him.
I'm thinking that's like people on drugs. Some of the drugs that they.
Drugs, alcohol, yeah. It's a spirit.
My EMT teacher said, like, when he was an EMT back in the 80s and stuff, that my EMT, he's a big dude. He's like six something. And he said that this guy, he was like drugged up, and that like 6 guys couldn't keep him down.
Right. Yep.
6 guys, 6 men that are trying to hold this guy down. But
Yep.
all these spirits are in him, just
Yep.
like, lifted them up
Yep.
from all that.
Yep.
Like,
It's real. And we still see it today. Do I need to be afraid?
Nope.
No. Can I rebuke it? Should I?
If you know what you're doing.
Not if these doesn't have something better to
Feeling this
occupy that empty
What did
space.
Paul do?
He let
He
the
didn't
lady
rebuke,
follow
he
and
just
listen.
He kept giving, he was feeling, right? Feeling her up, feeling her up, feeling her up. And then finally he said, okay, I've had enough. Right? Okay, this is Yeshua. He can do things differently than we can. He can rebuke it, it has to obey, and now he can fill you up. Okay, this is how Yeshua does it. Maybe we could do that too. But if you don't have don't just go be a passerby and see it and identify it, rebuke it, and keep going. You've left an empty vessel. It's going to be worse. Don't do that. Okay? Don't do that. All right. No one was strong enough to control, not even 6 big dudes, right? We have a facility, for lack of a better term, over here in Stockton, right really close to us. It's closer to us than most of Stockton. And there is a mental ward there. And one of my friends was a nurse in that area. And the things she would say, and I'm like, she goes, I just go around going, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Wow.
And they couldn't touch her, okay? Because she knew exactly what she was dealing with. No, your drugs, you want to drug these spirit, you know, this isn't, it's not going to work. She knew she was dealing with spirits. And unfortunately, they know they have rights. Okay, moving on. How did we get there? Night and day he wandered among the graves and through the hills, howling and gashing himself with stones. See, the spirit is not a respecter of even its host. It will bring harm to its host. Okay? It doesn't want to kill its host, but it'll come real close. Okay? It'll come real close. Seeing Yeshua from a distance. So it could be, if our street were straight, I could see the park downtown, right? Okay? That's a distance. Okay, we're not talking across the street. We're talking a distance. And it was the spirit that saw him.
Sensed him?
Yeah, spirit, no spirit. Okay? All right. Seeing Yeshua from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him and screamed at the top of his voice, what do you want with me, Yeshua, son of God, Elyon, right? Son of the God Most High, son of. Look at this. There is this word that's 3 times. The Son of God, the Son of the Most High, the God. Okay? There's 3 articles there of the. What do you have to do with me, Yeshua, the Son of God, the Son of the Most High? Right? The Son of the Most High. I implore you by the God, do not torment me. Now you got an evil spirit saying by the God maker, don't torment me? Really? He's scared. He's scared. So who saw him at a distance? The man or the spirit? The spirit. The spirit in the man, controlling the man, right? Okay. And he fell on his knees. I implore you in God's name, don't torture me. Some translations say, what business do we have together? No, the spirit is not asking him what business do we have. He says, he's saying, what? You know, he's saying right here, what do you want with me? What are you going to do to me? That's what he's saying. What are you going to do to me?
Because he knows who he is.
Yeah, what are you going to do to me? And then he begs him, don't have me leave the place, right? So let's keep going. Let's look at this. Please don't torture me. For Yeshua had already begun saying to him, unclean spirit. How many? 1. He's just calling out the unclean spirit in the man. Right? Unclean spirit come out of this man. And then Yeshua asked him, what's your name? And he's talking to the man or to the spirit? He's talking to the spirit. He says, my name is Legion. A legion is a body of soldiers whose number differed at different times. But at the time of Augustus Caesar is just before this time period by about 50, 70 years. Seems to have consisted of 6,826 men.
That's how many people he's been in.
No. He's saying, my name, Spirit, is Legion, because there are many of us. In other words, there's not 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 100.
There's thousands.
Thousands of them?
Could be. What he's saying is, even if there's not thousands, there's a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine this poor human being.
Right. It's housing all that.
You read other accounts. There's because it's in Matthew and it's in Luke, I believe, with the same story. Okay, he was a wild man. Okay, he was a wild man. Some of the accounts are going to tell you there's more than one. There were two, but the story hinges on one, which is what Mark talks about. Okay, so don't get caught like, wait a minute, is there one or two? Was it two different times? No, same time. Same time. Okay. But the story hinges on one in particular. The focus is on one in particular. Okay. What is your name? He says, my name is Legion. He answered, because there are so many of us. And he kept begging Yeshua not to send them out of the region. What did I teach you about Babel? What did I teach you kids about Babel? That at the time of Babel, when the languages were chaotic and divided, and the lands were divided, did I also tell you that in the heavenlies, there's a heavenly host, and they were given authority over regions. Provinces. Okay? So he's got authority here. Don't send me out of this region. I don't know why he doesn't just put him in the pit of hell. I don't understand why he doesn't lock him up waiting for judgment. I'm not God. Okay? All right. So he kept begging Yeshua not to send them out of the region. Now there was a large herd of pigs. Large herd of pigs. And some people say, well, why were there pigs in Israel? Okay, did I tell you it was on the east side? Did I tell you that Rome is now occupying? Yeah, it's on the east side. It's on the east side. Rome is now occupying this quote unquote what we call the Middle East. Rome is the ruling power. Okay, there are cities on that side of commerce. There's a road and a highway that people would go through to get from. Remember that picture that I showed the kids today of Ur and Babylon, Damascus? Okay, there's roads on the coast, the west side, the coast, the Mediterranean coast of Israel, and there's a road on the east side between the Decapolis, the 10 cities, Roman cities. I know it sounds really crazy to say this, but Roman cities were steeped in Greek thought, okay? So that's where you get your Olympics. That's where you get things of man, okay? All right.
That's where the Olympics came from?
Yeah, from Greek.
From like the gladiator time?
Mm-hmm. Gladiators were from
I just picture,
Roman
like,
times.
The Olympics.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Olympics and the glads were two different things.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the Olympics were they were very
Games.
sensual. They were very fleshy. They were very worldly. We call it Hellenist. Okay, and it was brought into Israel at the time. At the time of Yeshua, they had Colosseums there. We were actually in one, two. We were in a couple. So there were actually Colosseums there. They even brought it into Jerusalem. Okay, so that would be Hellenist, Greek. But then the glads, that was more the fighting, okay, to death. That was bloodshed. That was Rome, okay. But you've got both going on, okay, and they call it civilized. We were talking about caviar, and I don't know, certain wine. Okay, if you're a wine lover, don't take this out of context of the story. Okay, I like Stella Rosa because it's sweet and low tannins. I don't like the other stuff. And when someone said to me, "Well, it's an acquired taste," you know what? I don't need to acquire that. Okay, so you don't need to acquire Hellenism. You don't need to acquire things of the world. You don't need to develop that civilized. Okay, it's not that civilized. All right. This is where I think it happened. This is the east side. You see how there's flat areas there, but yet you can see the mountains or the cave, okay? All right. Somewhere like this, not this exact spot. I'm not saying this exact spot, something like this. Okay, so now there was a large herd of pigs feeding near the hill. And the reason I say that about the cities and the things is there's not just Jewish people living here. There are Romans and and when Rome conquered, they moved people. So you've got other nationalities, and you've got them on the east side. You've got other people around here. Okay, so there could be pig herders. They're not necessarily Jewish. Could be, then they're wrong, but probably not. Okay. And the unclean spirits, now they're all begging him, right? Begged him, send us to the pigs so we can go into them. So Yeshua gave them permission. They came out and entered the pigs, and the herd numbering around 2,000. So there's how many? So if
At least 2,000 then.
at least 2,000, because a spirit
that
can't
region.
divide itself between two entities, okay? All right. Around 2,000 rushed down the hillside into the lake and were drowned. Could you, I got to stop there. We're at verse 14. So, can you imagine these poor pigs? What the just happened? Let me out of here. What's going on? I mean, they're being tormented. Run to the lake. I mean, they'd rather drown and die than to have to contend with these spirits. Wow. And all of that was in
One person.
wow.
And like, did the person know that they were full of spirits? Like,
Do they gain conscious thought
Okay.
themselves?
I
Give me
think
the right words. Yes and no. You know there's something going on.
right.
You know there's something not right. You have this battle inside of you, and there's this torment. And you get thoughts, and sometimes you're like, where did that come from? Or you do something, go, I didn't do that. Yeah, you did. No, I didn't. But there's proof. I don't remember doing that. So, yes and no. You can be aware of what's happening and not aware of how or why.
why.
But then you can also be fully aware. Someone who deliberately, say Satanists, those who are in the occult, they're fully aware that they've given themselves over to an evil entity. Someone who is on their own way and they're selfish and they're doing their own things and they've opened themselves up, not necessarily so. Okay. Mental. Go ahead.
I think of that movie years ago based on a true story, The Three Faces of Eve. And
I
it
didn't
was-
see that one.
It had multiple personalities, this young woman, and it was based by the time they got through to it, it happened from trauma that
Yeah.
was in her childhood. But you know, she knew she had different ones. She came to that knowledge,
Right.
and she knew what this one would do, and what this one would do, and what this one would do. So she knew their basic
Yep.
characteristics, and she tried to keep control of the good one.
So there is real mental illness, which is a real illness, not satanic, not demon.
Just like born.
There's real mental illness. Okay, chemical imbalances, real mental illness. There is also a mental illness which is demonic. And they can mimic each other and they can work in tandem together. Okay? If you walk into a mental board, you're going to come up with a lot of demons. Lots of demons. Is everyone who's mentally ill no. No. Okay? So hear me loud and clear on that one. Okay? Not everybody who has a mental disease or a mental illness has a demon or is demon possessed.
Sometimes you're born with a mental illness, to no fault of your own. Sometimes in your childhood, you're exposed
Yep.
to things,
Yep.
and you're allowed to be like playing with Ouija boards, like drinking a lot, like dealing with drugs, because drugs is pharmakia. Pharmakia means witchcraft.
Yeah.
Witchcraft is you're under the spell of a spirit.
Right.
And when anytime you do drugs, whether it be alcohol, it's a drug.
Yeah, it is.
We just do a little puff and with marijuana right now is being decriminalized.
Right.
What do you think that is? That's the spirit. And people think, well, it's decriminalized now. We can go out and do it. That's still a spirit. They're not looking at the full picture.
You had a question?
I was saying like, if someone was like born with like mental illness,
Mhm.
and then like, it doesn't, like they don't know for themselves, but like if they were taught like, or if they were given that like as a kid,
Mhm.
that would definitely open them up and like that spirit would go in them. Like if they had no, not like.
No.
they
So
wouldn't.
if you're born, so
There's
for
a
example,
chemical
I
imbalance
was
in the
born
brain.
with a chemical imbalance.
Mhm.
Okay, It came from my
Sin.
father's line and my mother's line. Yeah, it came from sin, from Adam and Eve. So there's definitely a physical and
Explanation.
genetic disposition, okay, for mental illness. But then there's also, Satan mimics everything. There's also, just like, religion, God wants us to be his believers and walk in his way and to be spiritually be separate and holy. But the enemy, a man named it religion. Okay? There's counterfeits to everything. So can you have, can you be bipolar and not be demon possessed? Yes, absolutely. Okay, been there, done that. Can you be multiple personalities? I've seen it, but that's right there. Now you're playing. Now you're looking at multiple fractions. For example, that comes from trauma. You've opened, somehow something has opened or pressed on you. So you're either oppressed or possessed. That now you're dealing with something different. Okay, now you're dealing with something different. And so you take authority over that. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, you can have anxiety and not have a demon. Okay, or you can have an anxiety and have, that's a spirit. Okay, you've got to be discerning as to, okay, is this a physical thing or is this a spiritual? You've got to be discerning, okay, because it's not the same for everybody.
And the point is, don't open yourself up to anything.
Right. You can be fearful or you can have a spirit of fear. Two different things. Does that make sense? There's two different things. Not every, oh, I'm afraid. Oh no, that's a spirit. Don't be no. Get real. There is, remember, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is having a healthy dose of fear and going, in spite of it, I know whose I am. I know what I'm doing. You're telling me to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go boldly because I'm confident in who you are and what you told me to do. And I'm going to boldly step out in spite of the fear, not a spirit of fear. Spirit of fear paralyzes. Okay? There's a difference. You can tell when you've got a spirit of fear. Been there, done that too. It'll paralyze you. Okay? So that you can't even speak, turn, blink, nothing. All you can do is think. So you just start thinking, Yeshua, meaning God saves, God saves. Okay? Until you can move and speak. And then you conquer it. And you tell it where to go and not to ever come back. Okay? That's not a healthy dose of fear. They're different. Okay? All right. The swineherds fled and told it in the town and in the surrounding country. And the people went to see what happened. Okay, so you think that this story happened. He saw him, he rebuked him, and then, you read it, and within a few things, you're back on a boat and you're going back. Okay, all of this has taken place. I want to know, all those who were traveling with Yeshua and the zealot, I want to know about the zealot. How come the zealot didn't stand in front of him and block this crazy person running towards him? Don't think about that. See, this didn't just happen in 5 seconds. This took time. He was running like a crazy man, screaming, and then fell down on his knees before him. Then there's this rebuke. And then it's to go into the swineherds. And then you see these pigs. It didn't just happen in 5 seconds that they went into the water and drowned. They ran down the hill.
It was probably a loud noise.
You think 2,000 squealing pigs?
What the heck is going on?
2,000 squealing pigs?
Stampede of pigs.
And running into the Sea of Galilee? And then the swineherds. Now they're turning and they're going to tell people. Say they have to go to the town and go to the countryside and tell people what happened. Then those people have to grab something to eat or a coat or shoe or put the pins away, make sure the children, and then run back. This didn't happen in 5 minutes or 10 or an hour. This is a long process, okay? All right. So the swineherds fled and told it in the town and the surrounding country, and the people went to see what had happened. They came to Yeshua and saw the man who had the legion of demons sitting there dressed. Oh yeah, where did the clothes come from? I know, inquiring minds, you know, I just am curious. Okay, whatever. Dressed and in his right mind. Don't be in the left mind. Be in the right mind. In his right mind. Sound. What is part of the blessing that we pray? Sound. Quiet. Tranquil. Sound. Sound. Okay. And they were frightened. That's some kind of power right there, isn't it? That's some kind of power they just heard about and saw. Some of them saw it, some of them didn't. Those who had seen it told what had happened to the man controlled by demons and to the pigs. And the people began begging Yeshua to leave their district. You just freed this man of all of that. Some would be, remember when we were talking about the light earlier, Hez? Some are drawn to it and want to learn more. Others are, leave. Go away. We don't want this.
Do people think that like that's a bad spirit?
It was something they didn't understand. It was something that was
Out of their mind.
yeah, so we don't, you know, people in the world, and they want to know of God. They don't want to know God.
That's why there are a lot of announcements right here that you know, somebody owned them pigs. All of a sudden there are 2,000 pigs. So they're saying, hey, get out of here, you're costing me money. Same thing now.
That's
You
true.
go to a church and all these bars start saying, hey, you're costing us money. Get out of here. And they want to throw Jesus or God
Yeah.
out of the picture because it's costing them money. Money, you know?
Oh yeah, the way of life had to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody did lose something, huh? Huh. Think about the man that lost all those demons.
Yeah, we don't care about
But he
that.
felt so light after that.
Yeah. Well, this is different.
So those who had seen it told what had happened to the man controlled by demons and to the pigs, and the people began begging Yeshua to leave their district. As he was getting into the boat, so he was sitting there dressed and in his right mind. After Yeshua told the 2,000 to leave, what was he doing? Not like Paul. He's filling him. He's filling him. Does this man have a knowledge of Scripture? I don't know. Is he Jewish? I don't know. I don't know that. It doesn't say that. You could go both ways with this, and I'll show you why here in just a second. You can go both ways. But does he have a knowledge of God? I think he has to. He's got to have a knowledge of God. Okay? But they're sitting there, and they're having a conversation, and he's being filled by the Word of God. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been demonized begged him to be allowed to go with him. Oh, please, let me follow you. Let me come with you. You've given me, right? I want to go with you. But Yeshua would not permit it. What? That's why I think he had to have some knowledge. And I think, I could be wrong. I could be way off on that. But if he had some knowledge, some Old Testament knowledge, if he had some knowledge, and Yeshua said it straight, Yeshua explained, like he does when he shares the message. Now he's got a foundation. He's got it within him to be able to go, right? So what does he tell him? He says, instead he said to him, go home to your people. That's why I think he might be a Gentile. He could be going home to a foreign place, people of Israel. Could be. I'm not going to be dogmatic on it, but I see this as a Gentile. And tell them how much Adonai in his mercy has done for you. And he went off and began proclaiming in the 10 towns how much Yeshua had done for him, and everyone was amazed. You see, I think he's the first evangelist. Because the 10 towns, watch this. Here's the 10 towns: Damascus, Kanatha, Hippus, Dion, Raphana, Gadara, Pella, Garas, Philadelphia, and one is on the west side of the Jordan. The other 9 are on the east side of the Jordan. This is a major from Damascus. Damascus is a trade center, even in the time of Paul, which is just a few years from now. Okay?
So there's a lot of people.
These are Roman cities. Okay? These are civilized. In other words, there's not one nationality in these towns. There's a bunch of people from a bunch of different places. And he went to, it says 10 cities. He went to all of them. Maybe he used to be a merchant. I don't know. But he goes to the Roman cities. He went off and began proclaiming in the 10 towns how much Yeshua had done for him, and everyone was amazed. Okay? And then at verse 21 starts another thing, and it's a longer one, so we're going to stop there. Okay? Questions?
No, I was just thinking, Jesus said, go home to your people, and then he went off and proclaimed in the 10 towns. That's a big hint. Your people.
Yeah. But are there Jews here? Yes.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. Because a lot of John's ministry and Yeshua's was on the other side of the Jordan. This is, the east is the other side. See, today, the Jordan River is the quote-unquote boundary of modern-day Israel, with the heart of it being cut out. It's called the West Bank. It's west of what, Jordan? Still part of Israel. The East Bank was part of Israel. Okay? But when Rome takes over, they Romanized, Hellenized, made in Greek. So civilization is in these 10 towns. Okay? Predominantly on this side. So there would have been a highway through these towns, to these towns. It would have been a thoroughfare. Because they, remember, they would go from from the Babylon area, from the Turkey or from the Persia area, from the Turkey area, Syria and Lebanon and down. Okay? Okay. But Rome and then England called it Palestinia. Has nothing to do with a group of people. It was a derogatory name. So this is a picture that somebody took here in California, believe it or not.
That's real.
Yeah. And I just thought that verse instantly came to mind. In your justice, remember mercy. You know, we think of a bolt of lightning, or we were talking the other night. I said, when God claps his hands, I think of thunder, you know? Boom. Okay. So, Adonai, I am awed by your deeds. Bring your work to life in our own age. Now, right? That's what we're asking. That's what we say when we say, Maranatha, come now. Make it known in our own time, but in anger. Remember compassion. Isn't that funny? The Complete Jewish Bible says, but in anger. And we have read in other versions, in justice, remember mercy. In your anger, remember compassion. Okay? So, all right. Okay, you guys come out here for the blessing. May Adonai Hashem, the eternal existing one, adore you and guard you and watch over you, protect you, save you, celebrate you, treasure you. May he cause the light of his presence to shine on you and illuminate your path and yours tonight. May his presence, walk before you and illuminate your path. May he forgive your offenses and impart unmerited adoration, favor, mercy, and consideration upon you. May Adonai's presence within you and toward you be set, directed, extended to, continuously carrying you, supporting you, sustaining you, pardoning you, give and ordain, establish, determine, and fix complete soundness, safety, quiet, tranquility, contentment, and friendship to you. and all of us, right? And us not here, us. V'yirekeka Adonai v'yishmereka Yair Adonai panav elecha v'hunecha Yisai Adonai panav elecha v'yishlemcha shalom. Chesed v'shalom alechem. And you say,
Shalom.
yes. Shabbat shalom.